Hey everyone, Pinoy X here once again, back with another video for Monster Hunter World Iceborne. With Capcom slowly turning Master Rank armor sets into layered, now's a great time to talk about my top 10 armor set designs within the Iceborne expansion. In my previous video, I spoke about my top 10 female armor designs for the Master Rank difficulty, and today, what we're gonna take a look at is my top 10 Master Rank armor designs for male characters within the Iceborne expansion. Now with all of that being said, let's just go ahead and get straight to it. Kicking things off at number 10, we have none other than the Yian Garuga armor set. Now in this case scenario, we're mostly focusing on the beta design as opposed to the alpha version. For me personally, there's only one real reason that I enjoyed this armor set in terms of its overall aesthetics, and that is none other than the fact that this armor set heavily reminds me of Lu Bu from the Dynasty Warriors series. Now for those of you who are familiar with Lu Bu from Dynasty Warriors, you'll know for a fact that this character actually wields a halberd, so a spear-like weapon, and ever since the introduction of the insect glaive, this has been a matchup that I've been wanting to do for a very long time for this character in terms of cosplaying him in Monster Hunter. And as you can see right here, with the Gaibulg spear, you can pretty much get a near perfect clone of Lu Bu in Monster Hunter, but more purple rather than the black and red that we see in the original game that he originated from. Alongside this, the Yian Garuga armor set is a classic armor set in Monster Hunter, and this is definitely something that brings a lot of nostalgia for me in terms of Monster Hunter Freedom days. So overall, this is definitely an armor set that earns its number 10 spot in my list of top 10 Master Rank armor sets for male characters. Now moving into number 9, we have none other than the Seething Bazelgeuse armor. For those of you who like your characters to look like underworld jailers or something along those lines, then this is the armor set for you. I mean, just look at the character's overall facial features. There is none. It looks like an inferno going on inside that helmet, and it really reminds me of a proper underworld jailer in my personal opinion. One of the key aesthetics that I do actually love about the Seething Bazelgeuse armor set is the shoulder pads on the Alpha armor set. The one that you're seeing right now is actually a combination of Alpha and Beta pieces, but for the most part, the Alpha armor set has been used in order to create this look. Overall, I enjoy this armor set simply because of the fact that it does look like a demonic jailer in my personal opinion, and I do genuinely love those glowing shoulder pads with the lion-like aesthetics to them that you can just barely see in my personal opinion. It's actually subtly done in there. It's not obvious, but at the same time, if you pay very close attention to the details, you can definitely see that lion face on the shoulder pads of the Seething Bazelgeuse armor, which is, once again, super awesome. Now moving into number 8, we have the Glavenus armor sets, both the standard and the acidic Glavenus. Now in this case scenario, because I already had it crafted, I have the acidic Glavenus set as you can see right here. In fact, for my personal taste, the acidic Glavenus just wins by a little, simply due to the fact that I like the overall coloration of this armor set just a little bit better in comparison to that of the standard Glavenus armor set. Now in terms of its overall aesthetic features, the reason I love this armor set is because Glavenus is known for being a very bladed monster, and it really reflects that on the armor set as well. You even get a pair of daggers on your character's waist in order to reflect that whole bladed feature that the Glavenus has all over its characteristics. For me personally as well, when it comes to the helmet, it does remind me a little bit of Gundam as well, which kind of gives it extra points in my personal opinion, just because of my love for the Gundam series. So overall, the aggressive bladed features of the Glavenus set really stands out in my personal opinion when it comes to these armor sets in the game, and that is once again super awesome. Now moving into number 7, we have none other than the Shrieking Legiana armor set. Now I'm sure many of you hate hunting the Shrieking Legiana, but in terms of its overall aesthetics for the armor set at least, I definitely love this armor set from this monster. This really has that huge Strider Hiryu vibe in my personal opinion from the Strider series, and just generally looking at it, the overall aerodynamic look of this armor set really sells it for me. Not only that, in comparison to the more bulky armor sets that we get in the game, Shrieking Legiana's armor is one of the more streamlined armor sets in the series in my personal opinion, and that gives it extra points for me overall, simply because of the fact that it's not that super bulky knight armor that we see in the game. It's a little bit more streamlined, it feels lighter, and whenever I see that cape from the alpha armor set, I always keep thinking that this armor set has the ability to make your character glide like the glider mantle, which is super odd because that's never gonna happen, but at the same time, the aesthetic is definitely there because of its aerodynamic look. Overall, Shrieking Legiana armor set, definitely super awesome, but the monster, not so much. Going into our number 6 armor, we have Safi'jiiva's armor. Now I'm sure many of you are wondering, why did this go down in comparison to the female version of the armor set in Iceborne? Well, let me explain very simply. There are too many knight armor sets for male characters in the game as of right now, and this makes it feel very generic in comparison to the female version in my personal opinion. Having said that though, the Safi'jiiva definitely earns its place a little bit higher in my personal opinion when it comes to the overall aesthetics of it, simply because of the transformation gimmick. The transformation gimmick really adds up a lot of points for the Safi'jiiva armor, but at the same time for male characters, because we see a lot of these knight-like armors in the game for male characters already, it doesn't really feel as unique as the female character armor sets in the game as of right now. So Safi'jiiva definitely went down a couple of points in terms of the overall aesthetics for male characters, but at the same time, the transformation gimmick really puts it in a good solid number 6 in my top 10 male armor sets in the game as of right now. Now in number 5, it's Banbaro time with the Banbaro armor set. This one that we're looking at is the alpha version, which is heavily influenced by Vikings. This is definitely an armor set that has a huge cultural reference in my personal opinion, and Capcom, please make this layered as soon as possible, because we don't use the Banbaro armor set in any way, shape or form right now in Iceborne, and it would be a huge waste not to let us use its aesthetics in any way, shape or form in the game. Much like that of the Barbarian armor set on the female characters using the Anjanath Beta armor, this is definitely a lot more unique in comparison to the more generic knight-like armor that we see in the game as of right now when it comes to the male characters. So overall, this is definitely an armor set I would love to see us layered, simply because of the fact that it does have a huge, and I mean huge, influence when it comes to its overall Viking design. Please Capcom, make this layered as soon as possible. Now moving into number 4 on our list, we have the ever so awesome Raging Brachydios armor. Now for those of you wondering why this is slightly lower in comparison to the female version, this is simply due to the fact that it feels more like a traditional knight in comparison to the female armor. Having said that though, the more mechanical-like aesthetics of the Raging Brachydios armor set really puts it up high on my list. Being number 4 is actually pretty decent in my personal opinion on my top 10 armor list, and for the most part, I do love the robotic aesthetics of the Raging Brachydios armor in comparison to some of the other armor sets that we see in the game. Plus, the helmet on the beta piece, it definitely looks like a Gundam, which adds extra points for me, putting it at a solid number 4 position on my top 10 armor list. Once again, before going through my top 3 master rank armor sets for male characters, let's go ahead and go through some honorable mentions. And once again, we are taking a look at my top 3 master rank armor sets within Iceborne, this time for male characters. Placing at number 3, we have the master rank called Tarot armor set. Now for those of you wondering why this went down a couple of places instead of being first place on my list as of right now, this is simply because the male version of the armor set actually has a warrior-like vibe to it if you wear the pure alpha armor pieces. Having said that though, if you do combine the pieces of alpha and beta armor sets, then as you can see right here, you do get a proper spellcaster-like vibe to your character. This one was a little bit harder to judge in my personal opinion, simply because of the fact that the alpha armor set really gave off that very generic warrior-like look to it, but at the end of the day, this is still the best armor pieces that you can get in the game as of right now if you want your character to genuinely look like an RPG spellcaster. So overall, this is still the best spellcaster armor set within Iceborne. Making its way into number 2, we have none other than the Namielle armor set. Now if you want your character to look mysterious and deadly, this is the armor set for you. If you take a look at the overall features of the Namielle Gamma and the Alpha armor set, one of the most striking features of these armor sets is the fact that the helmet doesn't actually put any facial features on your characters. The only thing that you really have is the glowing eyes. This makes your character feel even more mysterious than wearing the beta armor set in general, and overall, I do love the mysterious assassin-like features that this armor set has in comparison to something like the Nargacuga armor set, which actually makes you feel more like a ninja. Overall, this is definitely an armor set that I would wear simply because I want my character to look mysterious and eerie in general. In terms of its overall aesthetic features that I thoroughly enjoy, especially when it comes to the Gamma armor set, it has to be the contrast between the black coloration of the armor set and the nice bright glowing neon lights that animate behind the character. Definitely this is an armor set that I would wear as layered as soon as it comes out in Iceborne. And finally, at number 1 on my top 10 master rank armor sets for male characters, we have none other than the Teostra Alpha armor set. This is possibly one of the best armor set designs in the game as of right now, if you want to strike a balance between the generic knight-like look and actually looking like a proper regal character, almost akin to that of a king. This is one of the best armor sets in my personal opinion in the game as of right now in terms of overall design. One of the best features that this design has in comparison to some of the more regal looking armor sets in the game as of right now is striking a balance from looking too plain and looking too cluttered with details. As you can see right here, you still maintain that very generic knight-like look to your character in terms of the actual armor pieces, but when you take into consideration the fact that you have these tinier details that really complement this armor set, such as the gears and the gems going all over the cape, as well as the fur details, this is definitely striking that balance for me of a regal knight. There are definitely some armor sets in the game as of right now that may seem far more regal, but in my opinion, those armor sets are far too detailed due to the fact that Capcom didn't exactly strike the balance between having too much detail and looking too plain at the same time. So this is that perfect middle ground where you do have enough details that you can appreciate on the armor set, but at the same time, it's not too cluttered to the point that it really distracts you from the overall appearance of the armor set in its entirety. This is one of the best armor sets in the game in terms of design in my personal opinion, and I really do appreciate the amount of effort Capcom did in trying to strike that balance on this armor set between looking too generic and looking too cluttered with details at the same time. I do love the kingly look of this armor set, and I can't wait for Capcom to turn this into layered armor in the near future when it comes to Monster Hunter World Iceborne. And that, everyone, is pretty much it for this video, taking a look at my top 10 master rank armor sets for male characters in terms of their overall design within the Iceborne expansion. What's your top 10 master rank male armor sets within the game as of right now? Do let me know in the comments below what your top 10 master rank armor sets are in terms of your male characters within Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Now that is pretty much it for this video. If you want to see my previous video in regards to my top 10 master rank female armor sets, I'll put a link in the description below so you can go ahead and check that out at your own leisure. With all of that being said, if you enjoyed these videos, please consider leaving a like on the video itself and subscribing to the channel, as well as hitting that bell icon so you can go ahead and catch up on any future Monster Hunter content that I might be doing or any other games that I might be playing in future. Until then, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Onward and upward.